Happy Chinese New Year, gamers. If you celebrate that sort of thing, I hope you got some fat stacks of cash in those little red envelope things. I really wish we had the same equivalent sort of holiday in Western culture, where you just get money. Like, what do we get for Christmas? Socks? Those stupid Axe body spray gift packages? Just give me the cash, damn it. You know who else is demanding cash? The people who hacked CD Projekt Red. I really hope you enjoyed that segue, by the way. Okay, serious face on, because this is serious business. Earlier this week, beleaguered developer CD Projekt Red took to Twitter to announce that they had been hacked. Quote, "Yesterday we discovered that we have become the victim of a targeted cyber attack due to which some of our internal systems have been compromised. The hacker had broken in, stolen pretty much everything that CD Projekt Red had on their systems, including the source files of their games, and then the hacker left a ransom note reading, quote, 'You have been epically pwned. If we will not come to an agreement, then your source code will be leaked or sold online and your documents will be sent to our contacts in gaming journalism. You have 48 hours to contact us.'" First of all, epically pwned? What the fuck? Everyone was like, oh, it must be some kid, but anyone that uses the word pwn is at least 38 years old. Either way, CD Projekt Red refused to comply, and sure enough, their files turned up in a dark web auction, where it was reported that those files have been purchased for several $1 million. That's according to the hackers themselves, who withdrew the files from auction after they received an offer they were satisfied with. I know a lot of people are angry with CD Projekt Red for how they treated consumers, particularly those playing on last-gen consoles with Cyberpunk, but I don't take any pleasure in seeing CD Projekt Red's assets stolen and sold off in an elaborate extortion scheme. I hope they catch these hackers and they get what's coming to them, but in the meantime, I guess we'll just have to wait and see where these source files eventually turn up. How about some good news as a chaser for that one? Remember Star Wars Republic Commando? Sure you do, the squad-based Star Wars shooter that was an unexpected pleasure. Well, it turns out it's coming to Switch. Switch shop data miner NWPlayer123 noticed that the game has been added to Nintendo's servers ready for release, ported by the same people that brought us Star Wars Episode 1 Racer to Switch, and can I just say that was just a great game. I love the shit out of that game, fantastic. No date for Republic Commando yet, but it's on the servers, so it's gotta be pretty soon. Speaking of long forgotten games, remember Rainbow Six Siege Quarantine? If the question is confusing, it's because the game hasn't actually been released yet. Ubisoft revealed it back at E3 2019, which feels like approximately 55 years ago at this point. It's essentially Rainbow Six Siege, but it's PvE focused, like the old games were. Since then, we've heard basically nothing, but it's resurfaced today courtesy of MP First, who found files within the PSN showing new key art for the game and a new name. It's now called Rainbow Six Parasite. I'm gonna guess that the name change away from Quarantine comes after all of us have spent the last 12 months indoors, and a video game called Quarantine might have sent the wrong marketing messages. Maybe instead of thinking about tactical breach shooting action, people would have instead thought about being trapped in their house, watching the Tiger King while ordering $26 bubble tea through Uber Eats. I don't know. Anyway, Rainbow Six Parasite still doesn't have a release date, but I'd be shocked if it isn't out this year. Here's something that I'm not sure we needed. 6 Days in Fallujah is getting a release, 12 years after it was cancelled. Doing this story justice is a video unto itself, so I recommend checking out the Gamers documentary on it. I'll leave a link in the description below. But long story short, this tactical shooter was cancelled by Konami back in 2009, as people were concerned it would be disrespectful to the troops to make the Battle of Fallujah a playable experience in a video game. Fast forward to 2021, the project is back up again. It's being developed by Highwire Games, who before this were making military simulations for the US Army. Today the game is still controversial, but for very different reasons. The announced revival has met with considerable backlash owing to the fact that the intervening years have highlighted just how unjust the invasion of Iraq was, and many are concerned that this game will paint a one-sided picture that glorifies US involvement without facing into the injustices and atrocities inherent in the conflict. It doesn't help that the head of the game's publisher was interviewed by Polygon, where he said that 6 Days in Fallujah is not trying to make a political commentary. It's like, dude, if you didn't want your game to make political commentary, don't set it in a real battle and use real people's names. Anyway, a lot of people are nervous about this one and how it's going to land. Barring any future delays or controversies, it will be out later this year. Speaking of war games, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War has become one of the best-selling games of all time. Why? Big news for you Anthem fans out there. You guys are still out there, right? This week, Jason Schreier of Bloomberg reported that Anthem's fate was on the chopping block. A small team of about 30 BioWare staff have been working to redesign Anthem, but they're just in the incubation phase. Like 3 years after the game has been released, and they're in the incubation phase. Anyway, that team presents its work to EA's leadership this week, and that meeting will determine if Anthem lives or dies. I don't hold much hope for this and would rather BioWare move on to a new Mass Effect game or a new Jade Empire. But I know a lot of you out there still hope for an Anthem revival, so this is the week to cross your fingers and toes. Speaking of EA, did you know that they bought mobile developer Glu for $2.1 billion? Glu's library of games includes Covet Fashion, Deer Hunter, Design Home, Dinner Dash, Disney Sorceress Arena, MLB Tap Sport Baseball, and Kim Kardashian's Hollywood. Gearbox just got bought for $1.3 billion, and they make good games, or at least one of them. $2.1 billion for Kim Kardashian's Hollywood? We are all doomed. Surprise, The Division 2 is getting another year of content. This is unexpected since Massive have been somewhat cagey about their work since announcing that in addition to working on an Avatar game, they're also working on an open-world Star Wars game. That wouldn't leave much room for anything else, but apparently they found some bandwidth, so you can expect at least some new Division 2 content this year. No word yet on the Division 3 and whether or not that will happen. While we're on the topic of Ubisoft, Ubi have started flirting with the idea of the $70 game. In a recent earnings call, their CEO said, quote, "Yes, I do consider $70 games to be fair. If you measure the hours of entertainment provided by a video game, such as Demon's Souls, compared to any other form of entertainment, I think that's a very straightforward comparison to draw." What he didn't mention is that Demon's Souls has 0 microtransactions, while right now in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, over 50% of the item sets in the game are available exclusively from their cash shop at around $20 a pop. Let's not skip over that little detail. If you were wondering what the deal is with E3 this year, then you're not alone. With Corona still a big problem throughout the world, these big in-person events aren't really on the cards yet. Leaked documents indicate that E3 organizer the ESA is trying to put together an all-digital event to replace it, seemingly oblivious to the fact that publishers were already doing this without them. Unless the ESA can come up with a really convincing pitch, I don't hold very high hopes for E3 this year. And finally, it's possible to get a sweet matte black finish on your PS5 now thanks to aftermarket plate manufacturer dbrand. This isn't the first time we've seen something like this, as another manufacturer by the name of PlayStation 5 had to fold up shop after Sony threatened to sue them. dbrand is a lot more bold, saying, quote, "With the release of Dark Plates, the unthinkable has happened. We've taken Sony's monumental achievement in bad design and fixed it. We can only assume that our prizes are in the mail." Later commenting in their FAQ page, "Go ahead, sue us." Don't worry, dbrand, I'm very sure Sony will be happy to oblige. So, what got announced or delayed? Well, quite a few juicy announcements this week, kicking off with the news that Kingdom Hearts is coming to PC. Finally, PC fans get to experience the incredible Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 remix, the unforgettable Kingdom Hearts HD 2.2 plus 3.5 final countdown, and the mesmerizing Kingdom Hearts Prologue Intro Encore 3.1459265359. Obviously, I'm fucking with you, but so is Nomura when he names and numbers his games. For real, there are 4 Kingdom Hearts games coming to PC on the 30th of March, and they are exclusive to the Epic Games Store, which a lot of people are unhappy about, but that's always the way whenever it comes to anything Epic. Metro Exodus is getting a next-gen update. Now this is a big one because it's hitting both consoles and PC, and it's very chunky, and it's free to anyone who already owns it on those platforms. Now, Metro Exodus was excellent. It isn't for everyone, but if you're into slow, methodical, immersive shooters that moonlight into the horror genre, then Metro Exodus is likely very much your jam. The next-gen update for consoles brings 4K resolution at 60 FPS, faster loading times, new spatial audio, and support for the PS5 DualSense controller. Perhaps the biggest deal is the inclusion of ray-traced lighting, since that feature was previously only available on the PC version. Speaking of PC, you can expect new and expanded ray-traced lighting options, and it also rolls out with DLSS 2.0. This is a big deal because ray tracing does eat up a lot of your GPU's performance, and DLSS 2.0 can do a lot of heavy lifting to reduce that performance hit. The next-gen update doesn't have a release date yet, but it will be out later this year. Magic Legends is getting an open beta on March 23rd, exclusive to the Epic Games Store. This appears to be an ARPG set in the Magic the Gathering universe, kind of like Diablo, but with magic. And it's also got some deck building stuff in there as well, so you do equip weapons and armor, but you also equip cards, and they kind of form your abilities. And looks kind of what you'd expect from Magic. It's a nice twist on it. I like it. Graphically, though, it's looking pretty old school, pretty, I don't know, a little bit dated. So hopefully the gameplay holds up. Magic fans, let me know what you think when you get your hands on it. Chivalry 2 got a release date and an open beta date. Chivalry 2 is also Epic exclusive, so yeah, that's a big week for Epic. Chivalry fans are a vocal bunch and they aren't very happy about this exclusive news, but I think the bigger issue is that Mordhau came along last year and kind of ate a lot of Chivalry's lunch. It took so long for Chivalry 2 to get made that Mordhau kind of snuck in there, and people are generally pretty happy with that. Either way, if decapitation and dismemberment is your thing, Chivalry is out on the 8th of June and the closed beta runs March 26th to 29th. One of the most anticipated PS5 exclusives got a release date this week. Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart. This was one of the titles that Sony showed off when they first revealed the PS5, using the rapid changes in setting to showcase the power of the PS5's SSD. Something that no one really believed until we started playing Spider-Man Miles Morales and we saw that it could load the entirety of New York City in around 2 seconds. A Rift Apart is looking absolutely superb, a true next-gen showcase. It's out June 8th, exclusive to the PS5. And finally, Crash 4 is coming to basically everything. This was previously released for the PS4 and Xbox One, but will now see a release on both next-gen consoles and Nintendo Switch, and even on PC, where it will live on the Battle.net launcher, a launcher that, unlike Epic, no one seems to have a problem with. The next-gen and PC updates promise 4K visuals, faster loading times, and 3D audio, while the Switch version promises to be playable, which is really the best you can hope for when it comes to a Switch port. So what came out last week? Well, first up we had Little Nightmares 2, which did very well for itself indeed. The game is sitting at an 82 critic and an 8.3 user score on Metacritic. God is a Geek scored at 90, saying, quote, Little Nightmares 2 is a beautiful yet fragile story of friendship, sadness, and searching for the light among the darkness. The puzzles are well designed, the music is stunning, and the visuals are on another level. The ever-reliable Easy Allies scored at an 85, saying, quote, Little Nightmares 2 once again takes you on a disturbing journey through a vividly realized world, and the sense of danger and desperation you feel is as chilling as ever. Inventive new gameplay elements keep you thinking about how to outsmart your hunters, and your partner brings a strong sense of companionship. Whether you're a fan of the first game or a newcomer, Little Nightmares 2 is worth taking a journey into the dark. Little Nightmares 2 is available on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. We also got our hands on Super Mario 3D World. Now this, predictably, is a hit. It's sitting at 90 critic and 85 user score on Metacritic. High scores and firm handshakes all round for Nintendo here, with the exception of IGN, who scored it a 7 out of 10. Fans were not happy about this and pointed to the fact that IGN originally gave the game a 9.6. That's a pretty big downgrade in score considering it's the same game as before, only now it has a new separate game mode added. I don't really know what to say about that. I just think it's pretty funny. But the biggest release of the week, and perhaps this year, was Super Seducer 3, released exclusively to Steam, and I have no idea why the Epic Games Store didn't snatch this one up, as, you know, it's clearly the kind of game they want in their portfolio. If you're unfamiliar with the series, it's a dating advice sim, where you're presented with totally realistic situations like this, and you have to choose how to respond. It's like Mass Effect if every one of the dialogue options was "We're banned, okay?" Super Seducer 3 is probably banned where you live, so it's unfortunate that you won't be able to experience the absolute brilliance of this man and his totally helpful dating advice. Advice like this.
Obviously you don't put your little finger through your trousers and wiggle it around like a dick.
So, what's coming out this week? Well, not much. There are actually 0 major games being released this week, and not even that many indie titles either. One that caught my eye though was Shattered: Tale of the Forgotten King. Now this has been in early access on Steam for some time. It's sitting at mostly positive with a 74% rating, so that's okay. It's an open world RPG with Souls-light combat, but the thing that really piques my interest is the art style, and I'm a sucker for great art style. Shattered: Tale of the Forgotten King is out on Steam on the 17th. The other thing I would point you to is Tales from the Borderlands is returning to storefronts on the 17th as well. Now, what's the deal? This is a Telltale game set in the Borderlands universe. It's episodic, and it's 5 episodes that you can purchase either individually or together. And they used to give away the first episode for free as a teaser, so keep an eye out for them doing that again. This game was removed from sale with the collapse of Telltale Games, since there were all these licensing issues to be worked out. They've been worked out now, and you'll be able to play this. Please, please play this. You know how everyone was like, Borderlands 3, really fun, awful writing and terrible jokes. Tales from the Borderlands is so funny. It's so well written, and at times, it's actually very moving. I'm not trolling you here. Borderlands 2 is the best Borderlands in inverted commas, but Tales from the Borderlands is actually my favorite Borderlands experience. I loved it so much, and even if you're not someone that's familiar with the franchise, I still recommend giving it a try because it's just got so many entry points. Great, great, great game. Cannot recommend it enough. Put this on your radar. Breathedge. Breathedge. Whatever, I don't know. I didn't know this existed until like a week ago when the release trailer suddenly hit the YouTubes and did the rounds, and I watched it and I was like, huh, that looks like Subnautica in space. I went over to Steam to check it out. Turns out it's been in early access for a while. It has a very positive 91% rating on Steam, and yeah, it's Subnautica in space. Like most people who've played Subnautica, I fucking love Subnautica, and the idea of doing it all over again in space is just, yeah, I'm totally down for that. Breathedge is being published by Hype Train Digital. It's being released in 1.0 on February 25th. I plan to check this one out and I'll report back to you. Sort of free stuff is back, though this week there isn't a whole lot to report. Your PSN and Xbox Live and Game Pass and Twitch stuff, they're all the same, but what got an update is the Epic Games Store lineup. Geez, this week is a lot of Epic Games stuff, isn't it? Anyway, right now you can get Halcyon 6, a turn-based roguelike space strategy game. That changes on the 19th when you can get Absolute Drift Zen Edition, which appears to be a very minimalist driving game, sort of niche title, I'm guessing. I'm certain though that it will be overshadowed by the other free game, which is Rage 2. Now, I reviewed Rage 2 a long time ago. I'll leave a link in the description below. I didn't love it. It's not terrible, but it's not great. The moment-to-moment gunplay is pretty awesome, but the open world map marker style thing is very Ubisoft and very played out. The game lacks the sort of presence and personality that you might think it has if you looked at the trailers or even the key art. But it's free, and yeah, I definitely recommend grabbing it, downloading it, playing it for like 8 to 10 hours, and that's it. It's a really enjoyable 8 to 10 hours, at which point it kind of wears out its welcome, but it's free, and that's a pretty good deal. So there you go. Thanks, Uncle Tim Sweeney. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, our feel-good story for the week comes courtesy of HBO and Naughty Dog, who are working to bring The Last of Us to the small screen. And no, I don't mean another game, I mean a TV show. HBO announced their 2 leads this week, and fans were pretty chuffed. Playing the role of Ellie is Bella Ramsey, who you might remember as the little girl from Game of Thrones, who led her own house and demolished all of those old dudes whenever the Starks would hold court. Taking up the mantle of Joel is Pedro Pascal, who was oddly prepared for this role, given that he played a dude who had his head squashed like a tomato in Game of Thrones, and he played a gruff, reluctant father figure protecting his adopted child on a quest to deliver them to safety. Hopefully, Pedro has learned his lesson, and this time when he portrays Joel, he'll keep that helmet on. And that, ladies and gentlemen, has been the week in video games. If you enjoyed yourself, do your man a solid and give the video a thumbs up or a positive rating on the podcast platform of your choice. If you're new, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can pretend the notification is a message, and then people will think you're really cool and really popular. I don't know, maybe you already are popular, but some of us need all the help we can get, okay? Take care, everybody. Have a great week. See you next time.